Hi guys, we've seen audiences at Question Time or other political shows contain their Tory plants. People who are likely to be party activists masquerading as members of the public with the purpose of either asking a question that pushes a narrative or designed to put an opposition party member or leader in a difficult spot. Now, I can't be sure that the lady who put a question to the party members who debated immigration law and order was a Tory plant, but she definitely seemed like a Reform UK one. Have a listen.
I'm talking about non-essential immigration here. It's obviously putting a lot of pressure on the National Health and police services. As a lone person, I'm starting to feel increasingly vulnerable, and I'm seriously considering moving outside of the UK. How are you going to encourage me to stay? Because I really want to.
Okay, so you're considering becoming an immigrant because of immigrants. That makes a lot of sense. Now, the reason why I think she could be, I'm not sure, but it sounds like a Reform UK plant, is because of the language. Non-essential migration. Now, what is non-essential migration? This is language being used by Reform UK and Nigel Farage. The idea we need to reduce migration and just maintain essential migration. But they don't define what essential migration is. Now, when they are pushed, they will say, well, it's NHS staff or care workers. And that's all they say. That's essential staff. I've pushed back on this before. Well, is it people who work in the NHS? What about people who work part-time in the NHS? Are they essential staff? People who work for agencies and are then employed by the NHS, are they essential staff? So if they're coming from abroad, are they essential migration? There is no such thing as essential and non-essential migration, because if there are vacancies, people will come. You know, the Tories keep saying about how they need to train up British people to do these jobs. They haven't invested the time, the money and resources to do that, but they're claiming that, well, we need to push people off benefits into this type of employment. For example, the care sector. So she's been primed, or she's an activist who's pushing this idea that, well, we have all this non-essential migration. I've said before, if there are jobs available, people will come. If there are no jobs available, people will not come. If the economy starts to collapse, people will leave. Now, migration has increased because there are massive numbers of job vacancies. Companies are crying out for staff. The NHS is crying out for staff. The care sector is crying out for staff. So they're following the ending of freedom of movement, which she seems to want to enjoy. It meant, of course, that there were massive vacancies and those positions had to be filled. Otherwise, the system would collapse. Now, the Tories, of course, understood that to a certain extent, and they decided, okay, what we'll start doing is issuing more visas, bring people in to do these jobs. Of course, there are costs related to that and there are problems related to that. But in order to convince the public that they were bringing down immigration or making it more difficult for people to come in, they issued a whole load of obstacles. Now, once again, I can't get my head around this idea of non-essential migration, because once again, if people will migrate, and they'll migrate because there are better opportunities in the UK. The other alternative, of course, is asylum seekers, but asylum seekers are not allowed to work. This is something that the Labour Party could look at, allowing asylum seekers to work. There are a lot of asylum seekers who want to work, who have skills that are in demand. It doesn't make any sense to keep them in a sort of limbo where they're not allowed to work and they're waiting for their claim to be processed. Allow these people to work, allow them to rebuild their lives, allow them to contribute. That's what they want to do. Unfortunately, this issue of migration and immigration has been weaponized by the likes of Farage and the Conservative Party to convince people that immigration is bad, it needs to be reduced, and it needs to be reduced by any means necessary, when in reality, you need it if you want to grow your economy. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.